Howdy, y'all. My name's Jacob, and I just wanted to start making these videos to hopefully it'll help somebody else out along their journey in life. Um, I just want to give back to help people exactly like who I was. Um, a little bit about myself. I got about 10 years behind bars, incarcerated. Um, and I've done drugs many a times. I used to be a whore, a habitual liar, and I used to love to fight. And so, with that being said, there's if this speaks to you, let it speak to you. If this does not apply to you, let it fly. If you do not see this reality or see these things that I'm talking about, brush it off and let it go. It's that simple. Um, but if your heart testifies to these truths, and I hope that they do, then ask God to reveal these things to you. So with that being said, there are two major events that happened in my life that have brought the lasting change into my heart and into my life. The very, very first thing was in Noble Prison in 2011. And that's whenever Jesus actually met me. I didn't go to church that day looking for Jesus. I didn't go that day for anything other than to get out of the block, of the chaos that was in the block. And whenever I say I had an out of this world encounter with the man of Jesus of Nazareth, that's an understatement. That's an understatement. The day that I was born again in Noble Prison, I'll never forget that day. So with that one being said, let me just say, Jesus, the Son of the living God, is very real. He's very alive. He very much so conquered death itself. And he very, very much so offers new, real, lasting life to anyone who will call on his name from their heart. And nothing could have happened in my life to bring real change without the essence of my character, the essence of my totality, the innermost core being of myself had to be changed. And I never understood that. I really didn't. But I definitely see it now. I would still be acting like a heathen, a scumbag for real, if I was never born again and noble. Like nothing could have truly changed in my life. And so after Noble Prison, I wish I could tell you and sit here today and tell you, oh yeah, my life got better and everything got fixed up and I was a good man all the way up to present. But that's just not this case. I struggled and I actually went back to prison 4 other times after that, after 2011. The one thing I never gave up on was the new life that I knew Jesus came to offer me and give me. I just didn't understand how to accomplish that new life. And so with that one being said, this very last prison number I went and did was in, let's see, it was in 2018 to 2020. I got out January 1st of 2020. And the moral of the story is I tripped up even after I got out of after I got out of Mansfield prison in 2020, and I fell into crack. Actually, I let me not. I didn't fall into crack. I chose to do crack. Um, but I was seeking and searching after something that was already there and contained within me. But I didn't understand it. I did not understand what this newness of life that Jesus truly offered us was. And long story short, after about 3 years of battling, probably about 2.5, somewhere 2.5, 3 years, somewhere right in there, battling with crack, I was working on probably my 20th rehab, and I'm not even joking with you. It was so bad where I was like lightweight rehab shopping, and but the very last time I went to rehab was where I found my victory. And now, mind you, there would not be a day that would go by that I would not beg, and I mean beg, God to take crack away from me, to just take the desire, the want to, the will to do this stuff away from me. And it was always crickets. I've heard stories about other people, whenever they were born again, all these things just fell right off them. And I wish that was my story, but it wasn't. And it's not. So anyway, long story short, it's this right here, what I'm about to tell you, is the main moral of all of this story. It is the main conclusion of everything. And I went to a rehab up in Toledo called Racing for Recovery. And there's a gentleman there that owns the business. His name's Todd Crandall. And I remember walking in there, and this guy looks at me and he says, "You're not an addict." I wanted to punch him in the face, for real. Who's this guy talking to like this, you know? I know who I am. I'm a drug addict. I've been to AA and NA, and I've bought into it. You know what I mean? Like, all my life, since I've been a wee little tyke and been doing drugs, I've been going to AA and NA. And their biggest ideology that they teach is that you're an addict. And I believed it. And it was part of my core identity. Wholeheartedly, I believed I was an addict. It was just another thing of who I was, like being an angry man or being a fighter or being a lustful man. I was so dead convinced that these were part of my nature. These were part of my essence. The central theme of who Jacob is. And whenever he said that to me that day, I was like, man, this dude don't even know who he's talking to or talking about. Like, this is the guy that's confused. But I listened to him because something in my heart, my innermost being, testified to the truths of this, of what this guy was saying. And it sent me, I'm not even joking with you, this was the first rehab I have ever been to that did not support the AA and NA community. This rehab right here was completely different than the 500 rehabs I've been to, and I'm being dead serious. But it sent me on this journey, you could say, for sure. It was like a 2-month journey where I would go to class, I would listen to what these guys had to say, and then I would come back from class and I would go back to my room and I would literally just lay on my bed and think about that entire words that he said, calling me not an addict. Because if I'm not an addict, then who am I really? And that's what went through my mind for months and weeks and days and hours. If I'm not an addict, then who is Jacob Sloan? Two of the biggest questions man asks himself: who am I? And what is my purpose here on this planet? I found both of those questions answered wholeheartedly. And long story short, I was praying, asking God constantly, is this true what this Todd Crandall guy is saying about me not being an addict? And I went to church out in Delta, Ohio, and I'm sitting in this church service, and there's this little girl in front of me, and she can't be no more than one. There's no way she was more than one. She was to that age of innocence that just the world has not tainted her yet, is the best way I know how to describe it now, looking back on it. She was not taught selfishness. She was not taught hatred. She was not taught lust, greed, hate, none of that. The age of innocence, as we call it. And this little girl was just so she was laughing and giggling, and nobody was even playing with her. She was just happy, joyous, loving, caring, kind, compassionate, gentle, merciful, forgiving, kind. I seen all of this in this little girl. And as that thought crossed my mind, I heard clear as day, like you're hearing my voice right now. I heard God tell me, this, Jacob, is who you are. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'm not a drug addict. I'm not an angry man. I'm not a liar. I'm not a cheat. I too am loving. I too am caring, kind, compassionate, gentle, merciful, long-suffering, patient. Like, this is my true essence. This is my true identity. And everything else that I have taken upon myself as a counter identity was me playing Halloween for 365 days a year, wondering why my conscience was constantly convicting me, because it was trying to get me back to my true self. And so with that being said, if you're part of the AA community and it's working for you and you see change in your life, and I'm not just talking about putting down drugs and alcohol, because anybody can do that. Anybody. I'm talking about the hate, the lust, the greed, the murder that dwells within your heart. If you see the inability to change these things, and I'm not talking about spending a whole lifetime and constantly tripping over these mistakes, readjusting, tripping over these mistakes, making zero progress, or if you do make progress, it's like 0.25%. And then with the next errant opportunity that presents itself, you've done back step 10 steps. If this is you, listen to me, hear me at the very minimum. If this is not you and you see true change and you see true character change within your heart, and I'm not just talking about the external change, I'm talking about whenever the lady cuts you off at the road or the dude says something fly to you, the first thought and notion that passes through your mind is, I'm gonna punk slap this dude. If you still have these thoughts and these notions within your head, and these type of battles and struggles that you go through, then just maybe AA and NA is not helping. That's what I found. And so I guess with that one being said, I have seen the biggest victory in my life with just me finding out my identity and my purpose in life. I'm not a drug addict. I never was a drug addict. I did not come out of my mom's womb rolling a stem or smoking a rock. So that is not my true nature. That is not my true essence. I was taught that. Whether if I willingly walked into that or did not, it's irrelevant. What is relevant is that was taught to me. But at one point in time in my life, that was foreign to me. So the real question is, who really are you and who you trying to get back to? Because to me, it was the little boy. It's the little Jacob that's inside of me that was lost from learning how to fight this world, learning how to fight the courts, learning how to fight in prisons and rehabs. It was the coping mechanisms whenever the going would get tough to run off to drugs. It was every single time I seen a fly chick come by me, I was spitting game at her at any and all costs just to get in between the sheets. I couldn't change those things. I did not have the capacity and the ability, and it all but the change came the second I truly understood I'm not a drug addict. Because if I'm not a drug addict, then who am I really? If I'm not an angry man, who am I really? If I'm not a fighter, then who am I really? If I'm not a lustful man, then who am I really? Because I've always called myself a fighter. I've always called myself a drug addict. I've always called myself a lustful man. Always. Like, I had to be honest with myself, right? For change to come. That's what AA and NA always taught me. You got to be honest and stand and confront these things. Yet whenever an opportunity would present itself, these things would come back 10 times harder. And then I will beat myself up with shame and guilt and remorse because these things weren't pushed out of my life because they were such a part of my identity. I have seen change in my life over these last 3 years like I have never seen in my entire days. 3 years. 3 years. And now, mind you, I've been going to AA and NA way, way longer than that, since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. And the effort and the energy that I put into bringing the change into my life didn't even happen or come close. It could not. The day I truly understood I was not a drug addict also meant that I was not an angry man. It also meant that I was not a lustful man. It also meant that I do not have murder in my heart and or hate within me. Whenever I was born again in 2011, I was took from the lineage and line of Adam, which would be dubbed a sinner, and I was placed within the lineage and line of Jesus. My identity that day in 2011 changed completely. Now, mind you, with that one being said, why did you not have the ability and capacity to change from 2011? I wish I had that answer. I have strong assumptions, but I don't have exactly that answer. But it was here recently within these last 3 years whenever I seen and understood my identity, that I'm loving, I'm caring, I'm kind, I'm compassionate, I'm gentle, I'm merciful, I'm hardworking, I'm a dad, I'm patient, I'm long-suffering, I'm forgiving. Whenever I truly understood my identity and my purpose, which is to tell people about Jesus and the real life that he has to offer. That's my number one purpose in this life, is that right there. I have found contentment within my life like no other. I hope this helps you guys. This is just the first video that I planned on making. I don't know where it's going to go or if it's going to go anywhere. I don't know. I hope it does. To God be the glory. And I hope you guys have a blessed day.